Thanks again, everyone, for coming. And I wanted to introduce Jeff. I've known him for probably since I started doing CRM and Dynamics stuff. And he's been a really big supportive person for my career, but also very supportive of our DC community throughout the years, and has presented for us many times. So we're excited to have him back, and I'll let you take it away.
All right, cool. Thank you for that. And after Marin's presentation, I feel like mine is far less important, but hopefully there'll be a tidbit or two in here for everybody. So very cool to follow her and what she had to share. So I'm going to kind of dive in pretty quickly here because there's a fair amount of content here, and I'm usually challenged to get through all of this in an hour. So I'm probably going to take a few shortcuts, but you'll actually see the way I've started setting this stuff up. I try to make it easy for you to go back and look at some stuff maybe that we didn't have time to cover. But to help me decide where to make shortcuts, if you would give me a quick show of your hands via Teams to this question. If you consider yourself new to Power Portals, not Pages, Pages is brand new. Probably everyone's fairly new to that with very little experience, but raise your hand if you think I'm pretty new to Power Portals in general. Maybe I know what they are, but I know very little about setting them up or configuring them. Okay. So I'll cover a lot of that topic too, since it looks like we've got a lot of people who are new here to the whole topic of portals as well as Power App Pages. It means I'll have to go a little bit of a rush through some of this, but you'll see Power Pages are brand new, recently announced from Microsoft. I'm not quite sure I'm right on this, but I think they're kind of the heir apparent to Power Portals. They'll probably move more and more towards the Power Pages front, but right now, there's still things you do maybe in each world. So I'll try to talk about that to give you an introduction to all of those things. Okay.
And Jeff, just real quick.
Yes.
We don't have a hard stop. If you do, I totally understand. But just so you know, like if you want to go the distance and deliver your whole presentation, we're recording it and it's fine. So just let you know.
Okay. Be careful. You just gave me permission to talk as long as I want to. You might be here all night long.
Look, I'm just saying, Kylie, I think that's all right, but if I'm wrong, just let me know.
That's cool. I promise I won't go that far over, but I'll try to keep the pace going and totally understand if people start checking out early, at least you'll have the whole recording you can refer back to, and you'll also have some other little recordings that you'll see as we get into this. So I feel like I know most of you now. I've talked a lot for this user group and quite a bit for other ones. So I won't go through my banter about my introduction to me, but there's me, there's my family. My wife and I are empty nesters. We have our first grandson who is recently added to the family, and a granddaughter is on the way in November. We're excited about that. My wife and I love fine spirits. Some of you who know us know about our passion for wine, but I also like other fine spirits like bourbon, and just tasting those, the experience of it, the way that those things can, if done in a healthy way, actually bring you together with people. We think that's a lot of fun. We also love traveling. We ride on a motorcycle together sometimes to do little trips. I just went all the way to Wisconsin and back, a 10-day trip, my longest yet, just a few weeks ago. So don't know if we've got any other riders here, but love to connect with them. If you know one thing about motorcycling is it's fun alone. It's a ton of fun if you go with friends. So love to connect with you if that's something you're ever into. Okay, and I geek out on this stuff, and there's a bunch of books I've either written or contributed to. Okay, for our agenda, what we're going to do is sort of breaking it down to 6 parts here. We'll look at what are Power App Portals, and for those of you who are kind of aware of Power Pages, our time on Power App Portals will not be wasted. A lot of what you can do in Power App Portals, you can already do in Power Pages. There are just some new ways you do it, and the old ways still work too. So I think that all of that knowledge, if you have some knowledge about Power App Portals already, good news. You don't throw that out to begin the journey to Power Pages. That foundation is still relevant. Power Pages just starts to make it even easier and more approachable to develop pages, websites, and portals. And then I'll actually walk through, so how do I actually create one of these portals? And then we'll look at the Portal Studio. How do I configure a portal after I've created it? Then we'll look at the preview of Power Pages. And I say preview because that actually is still in preview mode right now, but it's pretty functional. So you can get in there and play around with it. Time permitting, I'll talk about some more advanced portal concepts. And by talk about, I mean, I'll give you some bullets, and if you ask questions, I'll say, is there someone else on the call who can answer? Because I'm not the pro code person. I am the low code, no code person, and there's other folks that work in our shop who can go more deep with those questions, but I'm sure there's people like that on this session as well. And then some closing thoughts. Okay, so quickly, what are Power App portals? So first of all, understanding the kind of the structure, and this is my drawing. Microsoft has much more detailed versions of this, but understand that the Dataverse is really where the data for Power App portals or Power Pages lives. So if you're familiar with content management systems of any type, whether it's SharePoint or WordPress or any system that's made to manage web content, that content management system needs a backend database to handle everything from user profiles and security to the lists of content that's presented on pages, to the pages themselves. All of that information is managed in a database, just like any other information presentation system. And the backend data for Power App portals and Power Pages is all managed in the Dataverse. That's the backend content management database for the Power Portals / Pages content management solution. There's a little bit more to it than that as we get into it, because it evolved out of Dynamics 365, the various customer engagement modules of Dynamics 365. So some of the earliest Power Portals were purpose-built to be portals for your customers and your distributors, your vendors, those kinds of folks. And so not only did it use the Dataverse for managing the content, but it was made for sharing content that lived in Dynamics via the portal, such as if you had Dynamics 365 for customer service, you might allow your customers to submit and update their cases or their issue lists via the portal. You might also have published your knowledge base to the portal so they can self-serve via your portal if they want to. If you sell through distributors, you might share leads and opportunities with those distributors via a portal. And those opportunities and leads live in the Dynamics 365 database. And then, of course, Power App portals and now Pages is what sits on top of that structure. Now, you do not need Dynamics 365 to create portals. If you want a portal that's built around sharing the data that would be in a CRM solution, you probably want to consider Dynamics. But you don't need to have Dynamics to build pages and portals. There's other uses for them now, and we'll get into that a little bit. So that middle tier has gone from required to optional, but you still sit on the Dataverse no matter what. Okay, so let's talk about self-service portals first. And what I like to do is kind of give you the vision of what it is before I show you how to do it. So there's more to it than what you'll see here, but these are three quick demolets, right? Like little bite-sized recorded demos. After the session, if you like, I can send you the slides via PDF, and these links will remain hot. So if I don't play all of them today, or you have to leave early, you can come back and instead of watching the whole video, you can go into the PDF and look at just these very short demos. Dynamics 365 for customer service has a powerful knowledge base built in. Here you can see a listing of 12 articles in Contoso's knowledge base. Articles can include attachments, rich text, images, media, links, and the knowledge base can be made available within a Power Apps portal for customer service. Let's switch to the Contoso customer service portal to see what this looks like. Right now, I'm not logged into the site. I'm just a non-authenticated visitor. Contoso could have required site visitors to log in to see the knowledge base, but they wanted to make it as easy as possible for customers to self-service to resolve their issues. So they made the knowledge base available publicly. As a visitor, I can use the search bar to easily search the knowledge base and everything else in the Power App portal. But in this case, I'm going to browse it. I'm going to go over here to knowledge base. And right away, I'll see the categories that Contoso has used to arrange their knowledge base information. I'm going to choose the support portal issues. And from here, I can see all of the knowledge base articles that have been categorized as support portal issues. Let's open this one called Images in the Knowledge Base. You can see the same article we saw before with the rich text, the images. If I had media, it could be in here as well as clickable related attachments. Notice at the top of the article, it tracks the number of views of this article. It also gives me an opportunity to rate the article. Not only do these features help portal users to find the most popular items, they help Contoso to analyze the quality and usefulness of their articles so they can constantly improve. I can also comment on articles, but only if I've logged in. Notice the comments are down here, but no ability for me to comment. Let's log in now to see what this looks like. Back at the top, I'll just click sign in. I'm going to sign in as myself. And back on the same page, if I scroll down a bit, I'm now given the opportunity to make a comment. And when I'm done, I can post it. So that is the knowledge base as it's presented in Power Apps portals. Okay, so backing up a step, now that you have that little dip your toes in the water, self-service portal is one model, one template, one type of portal that you can create with Power App portals. And all these videos are related to that type of portal. So within it, I can have a knowledge base. Remember, the data lives in Dynamics 365 in this case, and it's surfaced in the portal. I can have forums. I can have case management. Again, that data lives in Dynamics 365. Now, one thing to remember is the Dynamics 365 layer is optional. But if you want certain portal functionality, it's not optional, right? If you want this knowledge base and this case management functionality, those require the back end of the Dynamics 365 Dataverse, the Dataverse that's richer and fully deployed with Dynamics 365 to make those available. When would you not want that? We'll come back and talk about that in a minute. So let's look at forums and how they can work in a self-service portal. Contoso has decided to include a forum in their customer self-service Power App portal. A forum allows portal users to interactively ask and answer questions. We're already logged into the portal. Let's take a look at the forums. Contoso has two discussion forums. They could have as many as they would like, the general discussion and the support forum. These two are sufficient for their needs right now. Now, I recently recorded an issue in the support forum, so I'm going to start by going there. I can see this forum is displaying 3 threads or 3 open items. The first is labeled sticky. That means the administrator gave it that label, and it will always appear at the top of the list of threads for this forum. The second and third ones have question marks, meaning a question has been asked and it is not yet marked as having an answer. Let's take a look at this second one together. You can see that I asked the original question and I chose to subscribe to the thread. Subscribing means whenever anybody else replies to this thread, I'm going to get an email alert to tell me to come back and see what the change has been. You can also see that Ali added a comment to this thread. I like this comment. It was helpful. So I'm going to go ahead and check this off as the answer. If I now go back to the support forum, you can see my thread has now been given the checkbox icon, meaning that thread has an answer. This helps any future visitors to the forum quickly find questions they might have that have already been answered. Forums are a great way of crowdsourcing answers to questions and serving customer needs more efficiently. All right, let's look at the last one here. There's actually more to customer service portals than what I'll show you, but these 3 give you kind of the biggest taste of what most frequently occurs in them. I'll play this last one. Dynamics 365 for customer service has a case management feature. This is for managing complaints or other issues raised by customers. Here's our view of cases at Contoso right now. I'm going to filter this to show only the cases for my company, C5 Insight. You can see we've got 5 cases currently open. Customer cases can also be made visible within a Power Apps portal. I'm visiting the Contoso Customer Self-Service Power Apps portal right now, and I'm logged in as Jeff Abels. So when I go to the My Support area, I can see all of C5 Insight's currently open cases just like I could in Dynamics 365. While I'm here, I can open a new case, And let's give the case a title. Notice as I begin typing, the portal automatically searches all the articles already in the portal to see if my problem can be solved without having to create and submit a new case. Let's finish the title now. None of these articles look like they're going to solve my problem, so let's go ahead and finish filling out this case. And I'll give it a quick description. When I'm done, I'm going to go ahead and submit it. While waiting for a reply, I notice I do have some other open cases here. Here, for example, is a case that I reported on Twitter. Let's open it and have a look. If I scroll to the bottom, you'll see I did make a comment on it about a day ago, and Ali Jameson at Contoso has given me a response. And as a matter of fact, after fiddling with it a bit more, I was able to resolve this myself. So I'll add a final comment, submit it, and at the bottom of this case, I'm going to click Close the Case. Back in Dynamics 365 for customer service, if I refresh my view, the data has updated in real time. I have the same number of cases, but the one that came in through Twitter is gone now. It has been resolved, and it's been replaced with this new one. Let's open that up, and I can see the information about the case here on this form. Let's go over here to the knowledge base, and we found a good article here that looks like it has the information I need. So I'm going to go copy the article URL. I'm going to go over here to the timeline and create a new portal comment. And I've pasted a link directly to that article in here because the articles are also available in the portal. Jeff will be able to get to those when he comes and looks at it. I'm going to go ahead and mark this as complete. And finally, back here on the portal, if I go back to my support and open this case, I can see Ali's comment. I can click on the link, and I can open up the article directly within this. I can even rate the article and make comments on it if I choose to. So case management in Power Apps portals gives Contoso customers another way to report, resolve, and remember what they have learned through customer service cases with Contoso. Okay, so that was a lot of little videolets there, but again, you can refer back to them if you want to. So that is one portal type. There are multiple different ones. I'll talk about another one. I'm not going to play the videos for this one, but they are here for you to look at. Partner portals is another one of the ones that have been around for a while. In fact, it was what portals were intentionally or initially built to do, and then they've kind of become more and more robust to do multiple things since then. So partner portals are, unlike the customer self-service portal that's meant for the customer themselves, partner portals are for those three-tiered organizations that may not have direct customers, or their the final consumers of their product may not buy from them. They may sell through a distribution network. Analogy we can all understand is Microsoft works with partners. Partners work with the end users of what they do. And so Microsoft might want to have a partner portal just for their partners to go into where they can share information with them. You see this in manufacturing a lot, but there are a lot of other types of firms that do this. A lot of the same things are available in customer self-service portals are available in partner portals as well. So case management you can have in there. So now you can encourage your partners to use your portal to solve cases for their customers, but in a private portal just for them. Knowledge sharing can be in there as well. I believe they support forums also. But some other things you can do in here, you can actually co-manage customer information. So you can assign customers to your partners and allow your partners to get in and update information about those accounts and contacts. You can co-manage an opportunity pipeline together. So you can allow your partners to get in there to actually add new items to the pipeline or even claim ones. Maybe you as the manufacturer had something come in, you recorded it in your Dynamics, but you assigned it to that partner. Now, when they log in, they can see that in the pipeline. They can say, yes, I'll own it and work it, and they can work it and give you status updates on it. Partners can manage their profiles too. So if I'm a partner and I have 3 employees who have access to the portal and one of those leaves, but I also hire 2 new ones, I can go in and add those new employees and even give them security roles that may not let them have as much access as I do, but they can go and do basic customer and pipeline management, but perhaps not add new partner people for new employees at the partnership. And then there's other partner setup things that the partners can do as well. So the idea here is it's a 3-tier system where I have partners I want to share information with. Some of that information might even have to do with the customers that they support and make it easier for my partners to work directly with me to get work done. You can go watch these 4 videos if you want to get a sense of how all that works. I don't think that's too important for us to walk through right now, but if that's a specific area of interest to you, feel free to do that. Now, one thing to remember is from a business practices standpoint, it's easy to look at these and go, wow, that's really cool. I'd like to give my partners that functionality. Just like a CRM investment, it's easier to do the technology than it is to drive adoption. If you've worked with Dynamics or any CRM solution at all, you know that when you've got a piece of technology that's not like accounting, that's not required for the lights to get turned on every day, it can be challenging to get people to use it and to change their habits and to do things differently. If it's challenging to do that with your employees, it's even more challenging to do that with your partners. So think carefully through, how do I make this really, really, really simple for my partners and actually ideally viewed as a benefit for them and not just another place they have to go do stuff to comply with what I need them to do to be a partner. There's probably more partner portals, not Dynamics or not Power App partner portals, but partner portals of all types that are poorly implemented than that there are well implemented. So thinking this through and having a good design and good training and good communication throughout it, super, super, super important. Now, in a minute, I'm going to walk you through how I did these extensions, but let me give you a quick overview of something happening in a portal that was not by design and that you can build custom on your own. And then we'll spend some time walking through how we did this. Contoso has an external partner that does lead pre-qualification for them. The Power App portal templates don't include the ability to work with leads, so Contoso customized it for this purpose. Now the partner can come to the portal, sign in, and they can navigate to the list of leads and work through the list, calling and qualifying them, updating the records as they see fit, changing their disposition so that they come off the list. And behind the scenes, Process Automation then reassigns qualified leads to the Contoso sales team for immediate follow-up. And this customization was done without writing any code and took less than a day to set up. All right, so that's mostly there to whet your appetite, but give you a sense of, I like for people to kind of see what's possible before I show you how to do it. But how to do that was not very complicated at all, and we'll have a look at that in a minute. So we're still thinking Power Portals right now. I'll come back to Power Pages at the end. Remember that Power Pages are kind of extending what you can do with portals, and we'll have a better look at that at the end. When you look at all the portal types available to you in Power Portals, pages are different, remember, but in Power Apps portals, you'll see 4 basic types. There are a few others in there too, including a blank portal, which I won't get into today. So we looked at self-service and we looked at partner, and you can kind of see what the capabilities for each of these are. There's also an employee self-service portal where employees can come into a portal to use something. And people regularly look at that and go, well, when would I need that, right? Don't my employees have access to what they need without that separate portal? Well, if you have employees maybe who are not necessarily don't even have an email account with you potentially, right? Maybe they're manufacturing floor workers or something like that, and you want them to get access to certain pieces of information, but they're not going to be able to log into Teams and into SharePoint and those kinds of things as their employee portal. You can give them an employee portal here if that's something that makes sense for you as one use case. And then there's more community portals that are designed to help you build community, to create that crowdsourcing sense of generating ideas, rating ideas, forums to share feedback in, ways to collaborate with each other and support each other within this idea of a virtual community. And remember what I said about Dataverse as the back end. A lot of people, even at this point in the demo, say, so how does that sync? How does that integrate? How does that work with Dynamics in the Dataverse? It doesn't sync and it doesn't integrate because Dataverse is the database. So literally, if your portal writes something to the database, it doesn't wait to sync with the model-driven app user or the Dynamics user. It's literally there, available immediately. And the same is true in reverse flow. As soon as a change gets written to Dynamics, as soon as that page loads in the portal next time, that information is going to be there. It's going to be accurate. It's one database that manages all of this. There are a bunch of other portal capabilities. Even before I get into the low and pro code things, there are a bunch of other portal capabilities here. So What you saw was a limited starting point list. You can go far, far beyond that if you're dealing with a global organization and you need multilingual potential access. If you need single sign-on that might integrate with Azure Active Directory, there are ways to accomplish a lot of those different things. That certainly starts getting into a little bit more of the low code, pro code to do some of those things, but there's a tremendous amount of flexibility built into portals. So the way I think about portals, if you've ever heard me speak, you know I got to work this in there somewhere, but portals are really about maintaining relationships, right? It's a way of saying, well, how do we take the best of human relationships, but how do we make ongoing efforts to do it more broadly and more deeply using technology than we could if we had to rely on humans for every connection, for every discussion, for every activity taking place. So the idea behind portals and Power App pages are, how do you listen better, right? How do you allow people to contribute information and knowledge to your corporate memory, to your Dataverse, to your database in a more proactive way? And how do you have analytics that help you actually understand that better? So you can say, well, what's going on here? What can I learn from this? Everything from fields that are typed in, but even things like ratings and how often articles were accessed and those kinds of things. It can tell you things you need to know to create better service experiences for your customers. Then you build better connections, right? You create processes that allow you to have longer lasting, more mutually beneficial relationships. You know the results, so you find out, is it working? Is it not? How do I continuously improve? So listen, understand, connect, and know. We say that's creating an organization that's increasingly powered by luck, that's increasingly people-centric. Those are things you do. Good luck is your why. It's the reason that you do it, right? The cool thing to me about a lot of the things that Microsoft is now producing, whether it be for better employee engagement or customer engagement, is that they help you to influence your culture more than we might have had an opportunity to do in our positions in companies ever before. It means we're in an incredibly powerful position as people who are contributing to these things to actually change who our organizations are, right? Why we do the things we do, which changes human behavior, that changes philosophy. It's incredibly powerful. So you guys have amazing influence on that like no one's ever had before. And this is a great platform to have some of that influence with. Okay, so let's look at that now and say, how did we do some of that? How did we create those portals that we just saw? So we'll see, I may skip around in here a little bit, but I want to start by creating a portal from a template. So let's look at that before we even get into doing any customization with the portal. It's pretty straightforward. First of all, you're going to go to make.powerapps.com if you want to follow along and try to do this. And by the way, that's why I do these short videos. If you do want to follow along, you'll notice my instance seems to work way faster than anybody else's because I actually shorten these videos to get through them very, very quickly so you can freeze them to go through them at your own pace. Let's set up a Power App portal together. To get started, I'm going to go to make.powerapps.com. The first thing you'll need to do is to select your environment. You're going to want to select an environment that has the Dataverse. Now I can click Create. From here, we can either create a blank portal. If I were to click this, you can see I have 3 types of Power Apps I can create: a Canvas app, a model-driven app, or a portal app. If I choose to create this, I'm going to get a blank portal with almost no information pre-configured in it. We're not going to do that right now. Or I can create from a template. And if I go down here to templates, there are a lot of them. So if I type portal, it's going to narrow the list for me. And you can see there are a bunch of different Power App portal templates available. They all say portal here at the bottom. That's how I know I'm going to create a Power App portal website. We're going to use the customer self-service portal today. Just a few fields to fill in. We need to name our portal. So I'm going to call it Contoso Customer Portal. We need to give it a URL. Remember, these have to be unique. No one else should have taken them yet. So we're going to call this Contoso Test 123 ABC. It validates that that URL has not yet been taken, and we choose a language for it and click Create. And you see we get this message, portal provisioning in progress. All right, and now portal provisioning takes just a little while. And by the way, yes to what Kylie just put in the chat area. If you have questions or if you have experience with this or have a link to share or anything, please do. One of the downsides of me doing these videos is I've noticed if I go to reply to something in chat while the video is playing, it disrupts the video. So I don't do that. But I'm not ignoring you. If you've put something in there, everyone feel free to put questions in, answer questions, keep it as lively as you want to on that front. And if you want to raise your hand to ask a question, that's fine too. Okay, so one thing to note, when you create your very first portal in a Dataverse environment, so remember you choose your environment, you have to have an environment with the Dataverse. So if you don't have one with the Dataverse, you're going to have the Dataverse first, then put it. If you've got a Dynamics 365 environment, that by definition has a Dataverse. You can create a portal there. If you have an environment that's got the Dataverse that's not Dynamics 365, and you go to create a portal in it, you will notice that some of the templates are missing. And that's because some templates rely on the Dynamics 365 enriched version of the Dataverse to function. So it's only going to show you the ones that don't require that if you don't have it on top of Dynamics 365. Regardless of your environment, the first time you'll do it is it will create two apps, two model-driven apps for you. One will be called Portal Management, and that is actually a model-driven app. If you're not familiar with those, if you're familiar with Dynamics 365 CE is just a big model-driven app. It's a model-driven app just for managing your portal and things associated with it. It will also create a portal app. You can see I've got 4 here because in this environment, I created 4 different ones. So if you create your first one, you'll actually get 2 apps. You'll get Portal Management, and then you'll get whatever template you selected to create the portal from. And then there's different ways to go into these to do your customizations that we'll talk about in just a moment. I'm going to skip this video. This one, in fact, this one might not even be accurate anymore. Microsoft made some changes to security model to cover a gap that was out there. And to handle that, you had to go back and make some changes within the code. Very simple. You can follow the instructions here. But I know Microsoft was going to eventually go back and do a longer term fix for this. They had to do something quickly to cover a gap in security, but they were going to make this step unnecessary. So if you're not sure about access and you're having problems, you definitely want to come back and look at this. But it's a very technical one-time only thing when you set up a portal. Once you set it up, you never need to do it again. I'll skip this one too. This one might be more important. When you set up your portal, one of the things you can do is you can use email invitations to invite people to join the portal. Those email invitations use a workflow. Right now, they do not yet use a Power Automate flow. They use an old school Dynamics or Power App, model-driven Power App workflow. And that workflow needs a little update to have a data slug put into it that uses the proper URL to get the right link to the user via that email. So if you're trying to set one of these up to play with or in production or something like that, you definitely need to do this. But again, once you do it once, you never need to do it again. So I'm going to skip that video for now as well. Okay, now you've spun up your portal, you've done the basic one-time only things. The only thing really left to do is you need to be able to start putting users in your portal. Let's take a look at how that works. Ali Jameson would like to add a new user to the Contoso Customer Self-Service Power Apps portal. Let's see how she does that. She's in the Portal Management app. She's going to go down to the Contacts area. And she'll search for, sometimes these videos freeze on me like this one is doing. Let me restart it. Ali Jameson would like to add a new user to the Contoso Customer Self-Service Power Apps portal. Let's see how she does that. She's in the Portal Management app. She's going to go down to the Contacts area. And she'll search for the contact she wants to add. In this case, she's going to add Jeff Abels. There's the contact. Once on the contact record, Allie's going to create an invitation. And she'll fill out just a couple of fields here. She'll set herself as the inviter. She's going to assign Jeff to the account that he works for, and then she'll save the record. Next, Allie may want to assign a web role to Jeff. So she will scroll down on the form and click Add Existing Web Role. And she can type it in or look it up. And you can see for every portal, right now Contoso has 2, there are by default 3 web roles: administrators, anonymous users, and authenticated users. Allie is going to make Jeff an authenticated user for the Contoso customer portal. And she will add that role. Once saved, Allie's going to trigger a flow, the send invitation flow. Just a few moments later, Jeff is going to get an email from Allie with a link to the site in it. Jeff's going to click the link. And when the link is clicked, a new browser window will be opened. Notice I'm in the Contoso portal. I'm on the redeem invitation page, and the invitation code has been pre-filled for me since it was embedded into the link. I'm going to go ahead and click register. Fill out a little more information on myself. I'm going to use my email address as my username, set up a password, and register. Now I'm registered. I'm actually logged into the customer self-service portal. Here I am. It no longer says sign in here. It's got my username here. Here's my basic profile information. I can complete a few more things about myself here. Note that the organization name is not the same field in the Dataverse as the company I'm associated with. So I might enter the same thing here. And I can enter some other stuff if I choose to. I'm going to go ahead and choose English as my default language. I'll leave the other defaults as they are and click Update. And now I have an account on the portal with a complete profile, and I'm ready to engage. All right, so a few notes on that. First of all, notice that I went into the portal management app. And I probably did you a disservice by starting on that. Remember when I said when you create your first portal, it would create 2 apps for you. And one of those is called Portal Management. You would click that app to open it, and it will open up that view that you just saw. That's a portal management application. It's another window into the Dataverse, if you will. When you saw the contact that I was adding that to, that's the standard list of contacts in the Dataverse, right? So they're usually attached to an account, that kind of thing. But the list of people in the Dataverse, that's where security gets managed. And security for portal access is completely different from the Dataverse security model, right? Dataverse security model is for users of the Dataverse, users of Dataverse apps, model-driven apps using the Dataverse. But the security model for Power App portals is actually a separate set of tables within the Dataverse just for Power App portal security management. You saw a little glimpse of that in this video. You'll see a glimpse of it in another video in a few minutes. And if a little bit of this is like, whoa, way past me, I'm not super familiar with Dynamics or the Dataverse yet, don't worry too much about it. I'm trying to kind of speak to all audiences and keep it simple. But for those of you who might be new to this, hopefully there's enough for you to be able to get in here, get the big picture, and even spin up a portal and play around with it if you want to. Okay, so let's look at modifying our application, doing some little no-code additions to it. So the first thing to get familiar with here, for me anyway, was there are really 3 doors, technically now a 4th one with Power Pages, to do portal management. The first door is, well, let's go ahead and just look at the next. Oh, sorry. The portal management app is the first door, right? That's a regular model-driven app. You come to your list of apps, you click portal management, it's going to open this model-driven app, and you can do a lot of stuff in here, right? You can add pages, you can add text to pages, we can add users and that kind of stuff. But there's other ways to do a lot of that as well. And in some cases, easier ways or more flexible for the end user ways. Door number 2 is the portal content editor. So that's where I would actually log into the portal. And one of the security roles I've been given is the content editor. So when I log into the portal and I have that role, I actually have the ability to do some edits of the portal myself. So you might give this maybe to some of your creative people and that kind of stuff to get in there and do some portal setup on their own. And then lastly, and probably most importantly, is the Portal Studio. So that's the application that's built for designing your portal, designing the app called a portal. And we'll get into that in just a minute. That's where we're going to spend most of our time here in a couple of minutes. But I give you all those to say, sometimes as I went through this, I'm a guy who kind of like tries to learn about the 100 to 200 level across a lot of different things so I can talk at this level. So a lot of this is new to me, and I've learned a lot of it just in the past 12 months. And one of the things I found was when I went in to try to solve problems, people would say stuff like, well, just go into the portal content editor and do such and such. And without me realizing what the nomenclature was, I didn't know I could do this. So I was over somewhere else trying to do something. So it's important that you understand what these are so you know where to go when you see different types of help context out there. But where you will probably do most of your work is in the Portal Studio. And good news is that's kind of similar to what you'll do with Power App Pages, as we'll see in a minute as well. So a quick tour of the Portal Studio. This might look familiar to you because it's kind of like Power Apps Studio if you've done anything with those. So looking at the top of the screen, you have the command bar, right? So you can create your pages, you can delete components off of pages, you can sync your configuration, meaning while you're in design, although yes, it's using the Dataverse as the back end, sometimes it might not have refreshed everything to represent changes that have happened in the Dataverse. So you can sync that to make sure you're seeing the latest version. And you can even browse the site with a click of a button so you can quickly see what you're doing. Then you've got your tool belt, the tool panel on the side of it, where you can update the navigation, you can create your pages, add components, you can even play around with themes and that kind of thing. And there's some other settings that we'll talk about related to security. And front and center is the canvas, right? Again, very similar to designing a Canvas Power App or something like that. So you can get in here and do some drag drop stuff, edit text directly, play around with components you've added and that kind of thing. And then lastly is the properties pane. And as you might expect, that means when I'm clicked on something in the canvas, the properties pane is going to open up to say, here's properties I can change about that thing that's currently selected within the canvas. So our scenario for modifying this app, if you remember the very short video I played earlier, is Contoso, the world's largest imaginary company. That's pretty much the imaginary company behind almost all the demo environments Microsoft shares with us. They need to share leads with an outside partner who calls and qualifies those leads for them, right? So common scenario where you might say, look, our salespeople, they just want to follow leads and are ready to receive information from us. But there's a lot of leads we get at trade shows or a website or whatever. We need someone to just kind of call those down and make sure that they do want to talk to us and maybe gather a little bit of information from them. So we're outsourcing that to a partner. And we want to share this in a way that they're updating our Dynamics directly, but we don't want to give them a Dynamics license to do that. So leads aren't included in any Power App portal templates, so they're going to create this on their own. And by the way, you could do this in just a model-driven Power App, right? A plain vanilla Dataverse. You recreate this list called leads, which probably isn't what you want to do, but just as an example, you have that much control over it. So the first thing we want to do is we want to go to a page and we want to put a form on the page, a data entry form on the page. Let's look at how we do that. Let's add a page to our portal that enables users to do data entry on a Dynamics 365 lead. From make.powerapps.com, I'm going to go to my list of apps. I'm going to find the portal that I want to update, and I'll click the ellipsis next to it and select the edit option. First, we'll start by creating a new page to contain this form. We'll make it a blank page. We want to make sure that the page shows up on the menu. So here's the new page we've created. I'm going to move the page up, and then I'm going to make it a subpage. And now I can see it's going to show up in the hierarchy under the site menu. Next, I'm going to change some things about the page. Let's name the page. Notice I can change the final portion of the URL for the page. I could choose a template. I'm going to stick with the default for now. And notice I have permissions down here as well. By default, pages can be seen by everyone. That does not mean what's on the page can be seen by everyone. We're going to leave this setting alone for now. Let's go add some text to the page. You're going to add a component. I will make it a text component. And I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. Let's make it 24. And I'll just enter some text into here. Lead update form. Great. Now, let's also add another component. We're going to add a 1-column section to the page. Into the column in the section, we're going to add another component. We're going to add a form. Okay, we're going to leave this as create new, and we're going to name this lead update form. We're going to choose a table. For the form layout, we're going to use the web form. And for the mode, we can use insert, creating new records, edit an existing record, or just read a record. For this scenario, our users are only going to use the form to edit records, so we will choose edit. Under form success settings, this defines how the portal will behave after an updated form is submitted. You can see by default we'll just show a message. We could redirect them to a new web page within the portal, or we could direct them to another URL inside or outside of the portal. I like the default, I'm going to leave it alone, and I like hiding the form when it's submitted. And down here at the bottom under advanced settings, I'm not going to really have anonymous users allowed to see this form, as you'll see later, but authenticated users should not have to enter CAPTCHA in order to submit their form. So I'm going to unselect that option. And just like that, I've created a new page with a form on it for data entry. Okay, so you might have, as that went by, scratched your head and said, well, great, you just picked a form. Where did that form come from that you picked? I didn't see you do any design of the form. That form is just a model-driven app form. So this is not about how to work with model-driven apps, so we won't get deep into that today. But if you've ever worked with one, or if you want to build something like this, what you would do is you would open up your model-driven app, the Power App Studio Designer, and you would just create a new form for it. You'd lay it out however you want and save that form. And when you come here, that form is available in the list of forms, and you can just select it. And it re-renders that form to work well on a web page versus what it might look like in a model-driven Power App. Next, we want to add a list. We've put a form on a page, but we need to have a list that connects to that form. Let's take a look at how that works. Let's add a list of leads to our site too, so that our lead qualifiers can see all the leads assigned to them to work on. We're going to start by creating another page, and this time we're going to come over here and we're going to go to menu, and we're going to add a subpage under the menu. This way the page gets created directly where it needs to be in the page hierarchy. Let's do some settings with this, and we'll add text, and we'll add 1-column section to our section. Let's add a list. We'll name the list. We're going to use the lead table again, and we're going to use this view. Now below this, we're going to decide what permissions we're going to give the user as they look at the list. Will they be able to create a new record? No, we're assigning records to them. Will they be able to open it and just view the details? No, this is really just for editing, and we certainly don't want them deleting. So we will turn on the edit option. Next, it asks us, how are we going to allow them to edit? We can pop up a form on the screen. We can send them to a web page within the portal, or we can just send them to a custom URL anywhere on the internet we want to. We just created a web page for this, so let's use that. When we choose which web page, it's going to give us a list of all the pages in our portal. We're going to use the lead update web page that we created. And again, we have the opportunity to look at permissions. We won't worry about those right now. And settings, we'll leave that at 10 records per page for now. So we've just added the list to our site as well. We're really all set to go. Okay, so you may remember the earlier demo I played. The user comes in, they see the list, they click the record, they get the form, they update the form, they save it. That record comes off the list because its status has been changed and it's not in that view. So that's pretty much how we configure that whole application. Pretty simple. I shared where forms come from, where lists come from, same kind of thing. If you want a list on a page, you're going to go in your model-driven Power App. You're going to define a view. That view becomes the list that you insert into a page. So you use a model-driven app designer to develop forms and lists, and then you come into your Power App portal to then add those items to your portal to make them available to your end users. Now, one thing that I kind of skipped around on during that whole building experience was, what about permissions for those items? Because the way they exist right now, anybody can get in there and work with them. They're on pages and they're using the default page permissions, and the default page permissions is anybody can look at it. So what do we do about permissions for those tables and those records? Here's what we do. Before portal users can work with data on our site, we need to set their permissions for that data. To do this, from the studio, we're going to go over to the gear, and we're going to select Table Permissions. Now, we've started working with leads, but there are no permissions for leads yet, so nobody has permission to work with them. Let's add a new permission. We're going to name this Lead Qualification. Sorry, it's doing its funny thing to me again here. Let's try again. Before portal users can work with Go, we're going to go over to the gear, and we're going to select Table Permissions. Now, we've started working with leads, but there are no permissions for leads yet, so nobody has permission to work with them. Let's add a new permission. We're going to name this Lead Qualification. It wants to know what data this is related to. Remember, we have a table called leads. We're going to use that one. For the access type, we have a number of choices. For the simplicity of this, let's use global access. And remember, our lead qualifiers are going to have to be able to read records. They're also going to have to be able to write records, but they're not going to create them or delete them, so we can leave those alone. And now we need to assign this permission to roles. We're going to choose administrators and authenticated users. Now, we could create an entirely new role, potentially called lead qualifiers. Again, for simplicity, we're just going to go with administrators and authenticated users, and we'll save that. Now, going back there real quickly, you can also see there's a tab here for child permissions. Child permissions allow other tables to inherit this access. So, for example, if we have a table of leads and we had a separate table of, for example, notes associated with those leads, you might have child permissions on those notes that automatically get inherited. If somebody can work with a lead, they can work with the associated notes for that lead as well. So you can see there's a lot of powerful security options you can employ on your portal. Okay, so security, like anywhere else, security is one of the more daunting topics to get into. Understanding when we kind of flash through this very quickly, there are a lot of different access types you can give across folks, but then there's also more detail within that, such as child records and that kind of thing as you drill into it. So really, really flexible, powerful permissions. As you can imagine, with something like a partner portal, you might say, I'm going to give a partner access to an account, but there's a lot of information associated with that account that I also want to have them inherit access to, but only if they already have access to that account. There are ways you can do all of those things. So lots of different security settings you can make. But again, if you're used to the model-driven app / Dataverse / Dynamics security model, this is not that. You'll see some familiar terms in it that will help you with your learning curve, but this is maintained in a different place, and it's a different set of permissions maintained exclusively for the nuances of portal access. Okay, so it's alive. We've set everything up and it's ready to go. I'm not sure what this video is. I think I already played you one, but let's take a look at it and see. It's been a while since I looked at this. Now that we've set up a lead management app within our Power App portal, let's see it in action. From the studio, I'll just click Browse Website. Uh-oh, what's happened? I can see the page, but I can't see any leads in the list yet. Why not? Because I'm not logged in. Remember, page security says everybody can see this page, but lead security says only authenticated users can see the leads. Let's sign in as Ali Jamison. Now I can see the full lead list. And if I click the icon next to it, it shows me all the actions I've set up. For this lead list, I've only set up the edit action. That redirects me to the data entry page I set up just for this lead. I can make changes to the lead. And notice I even have a qualification status field here. If I change the qualification status of this lead, the lead will no longer appear in the list for me to do data entry on. It's passed back to the sales team for them to do their job with it. So as simple as that, I created a mini application, set security, and it's being put to productive use within our portal. All right. So that was a little bit of repetition, but you kind of saw how security worked with that. And by the way, I'm trying to walk you through super simple scenarios here that work out of the box, but clearly I could have done things like change page security so that people couldn't have found their way to that page at all if they weren't the audience that was supposed to have access to it. And I see Jamie is sharing some great examples too. There are things you can do with portals to design them, to reskin them, to make them very, very beautiful and customized from a branding standpoint as well. Not covering that here. And if you don't want to make that investment, you might have a little bit more of a vanilla looking portal. But again, you get a lot of power without a lot of investment by using portals on top of the Dataverse. And you can go much further with them if you later want to expand them and make them look even aesthetically better than they do out of the box. Someone asked about, what are some use cases for this? Here's a few that we've been engaged in over the years. Inventory tracking is one, so customers can self-proclaim what some of their inventory is or validate inventory they have. So when you provide customer service, you have a full list of what their inventory is, and that inventory can be created by the service provider, the manufacturer to start with, but then the customer has access to it to be able to make updates to it. Competitive intelligence. One of our clients does a ton of work with bringing in information from public sources into their solution that they use across sales and service to do lots of different decision making and targeting and that kind of stuff. Well, they can outsource that completely now to have people who work from home or work remotely and can spend all their time paging through journals and downloading lists and stuff like that in order to keep that rich supply of information coming in. Loyalty programs and rewards. A lot of organizations have modern loyalty programs these days. You can actually make your loyalty points program and that kind of stuff available, the data from it available to your customers via a portal. Burn down on service agreement hours. One of our clients very recently said, look, we maintain service agreements. They kind of do it in a non-conventional way because they started before service was as robust as it is in Dynamics these days. And then one of their customers to be able to come in at any point and see of these hours we've committed to you, how many of you actually used and how many are remaining before you're going to go over and start getting invoices for that. So anything you can put in a database can ultimately be put in here. Doesn't even have to be in a database. You can do pages just like you would do on any other type of web content management system. But because they're built on top of the Dataverse, they're particularly powerful at exposing data and tables within the portal. All right. I know we're going a little over. I know a few of you will check out. We're in the home run here. The last little bit of this. So Power Pages, you might have heard of these, you might not. But a number of months ago, Microsoft announced the advent of Power Pages. You actually, if you saw the cover slide to this deck, I put the Power Pages new logo or icon on there as well. It's a new part of the Power Platform family. So let's take a look at that because it's not exactly the same as Power App portals, but it kind of is. So let's demystify it a little bit. Now that you have a background in Power App portals, what are pages? How are they different? And how are they not different from Power App portals? So first of all, they're built on the same framework as Power portals. If you build something, build a Power Page behind the scenes in the model-driven app and in the Dataverse, the exact same kinds of things are happening. And there's even some potential to be able to cross-pollinate between those two things. So all the things I just showed you that I could do in the Dataverse and all the things I showed you I could do to customize a Power App portal, more or less those are available to you in Power Pages now. It does do some expanding. There's a new Power Pages home. So if you go to make.powerpages.microsoft.com, that's a new maker experience for Power Pages. So that's another front door. We'll talk about that in a minute. It gives you a new set of templates, some of them very cool that were not available in Power App Portals before. So you want to take a look at those. And there's easy 30-day trials there and some awesome learning materials in the Learn Hub to quickly learn them, although they're very intuitive and pretty easy for you to grasp on your own. So if you're going to make a portal with Power Pages, I think I'll skip these videos. I know a lot of people are dropping out now, so I'll move through these pretty quickly. But just know, super simple to go there. You visit make.powerpages.microsoft.com, and then you can create new sites, as many new sites there as you want to create. When you look at the branding for this, I suspect that one of the differences between Power App Portals and Power Pages is, notice they've dropped the term portal. You can still build portals with Power Pages for sure. But remember, the Dataverse is just another content management system backend, just like WordPress and other public-facing website creation tools are. So I suspect over time, we're going to see more and more capability to deploy fully functional websites. Will they always be portals that may or may not require login? Maybe. I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball to know the answer to that for sure. But I think we're going to see much more powerful portals and potentially the ability to even just create public-facing websites with this as the design tools continue to evolve. So let's take a quick look at the Design Studio now that we're in Power Pages, a little different from Power Portals. And then let's look at a quick editing experience. And then we'll kind of do some wrap up after that. Let's take a very quick tour of the Power Pages Design Studio. I'll select a site and I'll click Edit. After a moment, the site will open in the Design Studio experience. And notice the left-hand menu. I have 4 options. I can look at my pages. From here, I can click and edit, open my pages. I can add new pages, and I can start with standard layouts. I have access to a styling menu that allows me to set global color palettes and general styles across the entire website. I also have access to all of my underlying data that I might use within this application. In this case, I only have one table, but I might have multiple different tables in a site. You can also see, using this interface, I can add new tables, I can add views, I can add forms, and I can even add data to my tables. So I can do everything I need to do right here in the Design Studio. Fewer places to go to create great sites. The last option is the setup option. Here I can choose my identity providers. I can also set permissions on my individual tables, remembering that your Power Pages permissions are very different from your standard model-driven Power Apps permissions. The last several options on this page are currently under development. They all display a similar coming soon type of message. And if you need to get deeper into administration, under the final ellipsis, you can access the portal management option to open up the model-driven portal management app. Cool. So I know some people are asking questions about, well, I could do this in Power App Portals. Can I do it in Power App Pages or Power Pages? My understanding is anything you could do in Power App Portals, you can bring that knowledge to Power Pages and do the same thing there. I haven't been able to confirm all that, but I know from sitting in on some sessions, I believe that to be true. I'll skip the editing Power Pages site. You can go look at that one. I think you kind of got a glimpse of how you can do it. But I think the takeaway here is a lot of the things in my previous how-to video where I said, well, remember, you'll go over to a model-driven app to do this, then you'll come back over here to the designer experience to do that. You don't have to do as much of that anymore. You can do almost all the things you need to do to build your pages and to build your sites directly within that designer or that maker experience without having to toggle back and forth between multiple applications. With that said, the portal management experience is still there, and you can still go over there and do things there if that's something that you're used to doing. Again, it's all still sitting inside the Dataverse. It's all still got a Dataverse application working with it. Remember, Power Pages are currently in preview. They're really cool. They're pretty exciting. There's some templates there I'm not even going to talk about yet today. They're fun things to experiment with, but right now it's kind of like, we'll use at your own risk. It's not quite ready to be announced as being in production, but it's totally available to trial and play with and get used to. And I think it's safe to assume this is a big part of the future of what Power App Portals will be. So if you're new to it and you're just experimenting with it some, this is probably a good place to invest more of your time. Now, remember, you cannot open your Power App Portals as Power Pages. So if I go design something in Power App Portals and then go, oh, now I want to go open that site I created, but in Power Pages, you can't do that at this time. Not sure if you'll ever be able to, but this time you cannot. You can, however, open your Power Pages in Power App Portals. So you go back over there, you'll see it listed as an app, and you can get access to the other 3 windows for designing it over there. I'm not sure if those things will allow you to do something that will then break the Power Pages experience. My sense is I don't think so, but I'm not going to commit to that. Classic Portal templates are not available in Power Pages. So there's some new templates there, but those templates that I showed you earlier that tend to depend more on Dynamics Dataverse, those are not available over here. So if you want to build on top of the Dynamics database, right now, your only option is Power App Portals. I assume we'll see more of that get moved over to Pages, but perhaps not. I don't know for sure. Maybe Microsoft will maintain both different ways of doing this depending on what your use case is. There's some other ifs, ands, and buts in there too to be aware of, but those are the high points. Okay, I'm going to move through the rest of these slides quickly because we're getting pretty far over the limit there. I already shared some of my roadmap hunches there, and that's all that they are. Some things I think things might be going towards. So some advanced things to know about. You can do much more advanced stuff with forms, including embedding maps, doing surveys, making multi-page forms that people go through. There's a lot of different things there, and these are kind of the out-of-the-box things. There's also with ProCode, you can do, I don't want to say anything you can imagine, but you have a lot fewer boundaries to deal with. You can do almost anything you would want to do. You can embed SharePoint documents in here. If you understand how SharePoint integrates with model-driven Power Apps or Dynamics 365 CE applications, it is still dependent on that to show these documents that might be attached to a record in the Dataverse. But you've also got the ability to do direct iframe type of integration with SharePoint too. So if you've got some things that you want to share with everybody using your portal, you can potentially look at embedding SharePoint within that portal experience, maybe even using single sign-on to do some basic security stuff with that. I've not played with that much, so I don't know absolutely for sure, but there's some interesting things you can do with there as well. Okay, so I won't go into the SharePoint versus Power App Portals dialogue too much, but do understand SharePoint itself is a big web content management system, and essentially it can be an enormous portal. Most people use it as an intranet type of portal, but it can also be used in some ways similar to how Power App Portals can be used. Lots of ProCode options out there for the coders. Again, all I could do is get a couple of screenshots that I don't even understand to put in here, but there are tons and tons of ways to tailor the experience significantly, whether it's from a design or functionality standpoint. There's a tremendous amount you can do there. And again, yet another long list of features that are available, more or less out of the box that you can just bolt on, probably with a bit of configuration. Okay, so I went through that pretty rapidly. I've seen some great dialogue here in the chat. Thank you for that. Here's some helpful links. Again, if you'd like the slides, I can get those to you. If you'd like them, just email me. That's probably the easiest way to get this. There's my contact information. And by the way, we are hiring at the moment. So if you're a Power Apps or Power Platform person or a Dynamics person, we'd love to hear from you. I think we're a great place to work, but I'll let you be the judge of that. And there's the contact information from my colleague who's managing that, but I'm happy to chat with you about it as well. Happy to get you these slides with all the links to them and all the various different videos. So you can reference those. Just ping me directly via my email and I'll turn those into PDF and get them to you. And if anyone has other questions I want to ask, I'm not going to try to read through that huge chat. So if you want to raise your hand or just unmute your mic, that's fine too.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jeff. This was a great presentation, really informative. And, we have a lot of people who still stuck around, even though we're a little later than sometimes, which is fine. So that's, a great sign that people are interested. I think Jamie has been answering most of the questions. We talked a little bit about what code options we had. And so I think all the questions are answered. The last one was around case management? Is there a way to attach email conversations to customers? And I guess, Jamie, you answered that one as well, that it's related to Outlook and Dynamics, right?
And I think there's actually a couple of contexts for that. So yeah, Jamie's exactly right, of course, that you've got Outlook integration. So you can easily go with an Outlook and say, attach this incoming email to this case. But you can also potentially send emails directly from a model-driven app, which by definition are then directly available within there. And that can potentially be made visible within the portal if you want to do that as well.
Okay, cool. I think the other comment that I saw interesting in all this blurb going by was around the, Jamie noted it's important for our people here in DC that this is not available, that the Power Pages piece is not available in GCC or GCC High right now. So not available for some of those government clients. Jamie, does that also apply for Power, the previous version, Power Apps Portals? Are those
Portals
available?
is available in
Okay.
GCC. I had to double check on GCC High, but I can find that out.
Okay. Okay. So some of the portal functionality is available, just not the new stuff. Cool.
How many words can we string together starting with the letter P?
Exactly. You can't keep these things straight. I wonder why.
Jamie, it was super cool to have you here too. I love it when there's questions going on. There's someone who's actively answering them in chat while we're in here. So thank you so much for being with us and being proactive on doing that.
My pleasure. I'm going to put a link in the chat that has a link to a parity document that we maintain at Microsoft. It's updated quarterly typically, and it shows all the sovereign clouds that we support and what features aren't available yet in those clouds. So I'll post that here in a sec.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Jeff, for joining us and presenting. And thank you to everyone here for joining and asking questions and being involved. And like we said in the chat, I'll work on this recording and get it posted later this week. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to Jeff directly or, reach out to Jamie and I and for any questions about the chapter.